To attach the bag band, you're going to need the following pieces. You're going to need your 2 bag band pieces and your 2 bag band pieces cut from canvas. I mentioned before that I was using a lighter weight woven fabric for the gingham. So I've gone ahead and added a little bit of Shapeflix interfacing to the back of that piece. I only did it because it's a lighter weight fabric than the rest of my bag. So you don't need to do that if you're using a standard weight fabric. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2 bag band pieces and place them right sides together. And then we're going to take the 2 canvas pieces and place them on each side of the bag band pieces. So you have a little sandwich of canvas and gingham fabric. And then we're going to go ahead and I like to use clips for this part. We're just going to stitch the 2 side seams together along the short sides, using a 1/2 inch seam allowance again. And making sure we backstitch. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And we're going to come over to our iron and we're just going to press the seam open. On both sides. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and slide this bag band over the top of our bag that we have sewn so far. And we're just going to put it right sides facing and just slip it right over the top. And we're going to match up the side seams and we're going to pin it in place. So I'm going to again start by pinning at the side seam. I'm just going to get all of these layers together here, make sure everything's flat. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and use pins instead of clips just because I feel like they hold a little more securely and we've got a lot of layers of fabric. If your sewing machine has a hard time, this would be the part that you would want to go ahead and put the walking foot on your machine. If you notice that you're getting a lot of puckering as you sew or fabric's bunching up, go ahead and put that walking foot on because you can see you're dealing with a lot of layers of fabric at this point. And that walking foot might come in handy to go ahead and get those layers all straight as you're sewing. Okay, I'm going to get all this on this other side. The same thing. Lots of pins to keep it nice and flat. Okay, we're going to come over to our sewing machine. Still got the arm of the sewing machine off. And I'm going to start, I'm actually going to start a little in from the side, just so I can get it at a spot where it's laying nice and flat. I'm going to come in with our 1/2 inch seam allowance. And we're just going to go ahead and start stitching that down. And take a little bit of extra care as we go around these thicker parts. Just make sure the machine's handling all the layers of fabric well, and it's doing okay, so I think I'm going to be okay without putting my walking foot on. Stop right here. I'm going to put my needle down. And then pull this out of the way. Get this folded back over again like that. And we're going to keep sewing. Okay, so we're just going to go through and we are going to double check for large puckers. And I do have a couple little puckers in here. This one is super close to the edge of the seam. I am not going to go ahead and unpick that because the lining will come over and cover that. You would want some that are larger that go further down into the lining or ones you need to worry about. This one right here is okay because it's on the lining. But then I am also going to go ahead and I'm going to fold the band up. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm checking for puckers, checking to make sure we didn't miss a seam. Okay, that looks good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna top stitch this seam. I'm gonna give you a little tip. If you're worried about your machine going through all the layers of fabric, what you can do is you can come in here with your scissors and you can trim out some of this middle pieces, just like that. You're just gonna come in, you're just gonna get some of the bulk out of that seam. I think my machine's gonna be fine, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fold this up again. And I'm gonna finger press this really well. And then I'm actually gonna come over to the machine and just kind of use the arm of your iron. I said machine, I meant iron. I'm just gonna press that so it's nice and crisp. Also, you don't have to top stitch this seam. It's just a matter of preference if you want that look. If you don't want to top stitch it, you do not have to. It's totally up to you. It's just a cosmetic thing. Okay, so I've got that pressed. I'm going to come back over here and top stitch. Again, I'm going to start a little further down. And I'm going to stitch. When you say top stitch, we usually mean you stitch about 1/8 of an inch in from the seam. So I've just noticed on my machine right here that if I stitch close to this edge that I get a nice even top stitch. So I'm just going to stay right there. I'm just going to take care as I go over these little bumps here. Make sure this comes out nice. Okay, we're gonna pause. I'm gonna put my needle down. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put my presser foot up just to give myself a little more wiggle room. Come sew down just a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna put that needle down again. Press your foot back up. To do that one last time because I've got to move my fabric one more time. Okay, get back to where I started. Then I'm going to go ahead and clip my threads and pull it off. Just give it another double check that you like the way it looks. And next we're going to move on to the handles.